I'm not the biggest fan of platform engineering. I feel like it's kind of a made-up thing that sort of stole momentum from DevOps. But it's here to stay, and therefore I think it's an important discipline. There's a lot to be said about it actually being an evolution, and maybe it's okay to have a new phrase. All that said, what I've noticed is that a lot of people who are in an infrastructure role, they're used to managing VMs and just networking and storage, even the cloud assets that a company has, they don't really come from an application developer background and really think about how they can achieve that mission in platform engineering of helping developers out. Not only being a tools provider, like a lot of DevOps engineers mean, where you're just doing build automation and tools, but thinking about how you change the infrastructure over to be useful for developers. We had a little bit of this when we came up with tickets and even self-service tickets where developers didn't have to have meetings and do things. They could hopefully go to a service catalog and request them. And then this kind of changed over into the idea of developers building and running things, having automation. And this is where a lot of early DevOps came in. And then DevOps kind of went off and focused on a lot of the cultural and process issues, in addition to tools and things like that. DevOps became almost inward looking and didn't always have a lot of application developers there. This is where, despite my own personal feelings, it is kind of legitimate to carve out and call things out with platform engineering. And for it to say, let's think about how we craft all of this stuff we've been working on, all of this DevOpsy stuff, and now take it to developers and think about the developers as the users or the customers of it. How we build up a platform that really bundles up these services, not only infrastructure, but also the databases, the load balancing, access to AI things that application developers need and make it work out better for them. And I think that's where there's this distinction of what platform engineering is. It is an extremely new discipline or category, arguably only about 2, maybe 3 years old. It kind of evolved out of this internal developer portal thing. These portals that were not only a focal point of where developers would come to collaborate inside an organization, but it also kind of collided with the dire need to actually make Kubernetes useful and usable in an organization instead of just kind of an infrastructure-y mess that infrastructure people spend all of their time wiring together. A lot of the early and mid-life hype around Kubernetes was really selling beyond what it was capable of and what it actually did. So you had all of these forces coming into play to make up, to bridge the gap between the small amount of stuff that Kubernetes does fantastically well and to intention, and the wide range of everything that people assumed Kubernetes did. So you see platform engineering coming from that, and it's really only been evolving in the past couple of years. And that's why it's really important to start thinking about how are other people who are doing this? What are they learning? What does it look like? How can I take those practices and apply them in my own organization? Now, you're going to hear a lot about how tech companies and small organizations are doing it, and that's all well and good. But if you work in the rest of the organizations in the world, I would say most of the organizations, big enterprises, governments, manufacturers, banks, big retail stores, all sorts of organizations like that, how you apply and more importantly get started and evolve platform engineering in your organization is going to be a lot different than what streaming music services and streaming video services do. It's going to be incredibly different how you get it started, how you get budget for it, how you think about making sure your existing infrastructure people, the existing infrastructure tools that you have, how you extend those out to have this very developer-centric way of doing things. Well, there's a great chance you have at Explore coming up in Barcelona, November 4th to 7th, where there's going to be many practitioners talking about how they're doing that very thing in their organization. I'm helping out with a talk from one of my friends who works at NatWest, a gigantic bank in the UK, about how they're thinking about that connection between application developers and the platform that they've been building for a while. You can also see a related talk about how you bring a service, the service of artificial intelligence to the platform from some of our friends at Mercedes-Benz. It's going to be a good panel discussion along with one of our experts who talks with lots of other enterprises, so you can really learn what the practitioners are doing. Now that's going to be November 4th to 7th in Barcelona, and if you want to check it out, go to cote.pizza. That is indeed a real domain name. And you can look at those 2 sessions, you can browse all sorts of other sessions, and tell me if you're there. And it'd be great to hear what you think about platform engineering, how it relates to DevOps, and any experience you have helping developers out with that way of bringing a platform as a service even, if I can use that phrase, into your organization to, just make your applications better.